If you've ever been into a Sichuan restaurant, you'd be very familiar with this distinct smell. A combination of the Sichuan peppercorn on one side and the fermented chili bean paste on the other. It's such a unique blend of flavor that keeps you wanting more. And the dish that normally brings the smell is misleadingly named boiled beef or boiled fish, but those dishes are anything but bland. The trouble of making them at home is, unless you're already familiar with Sichuan cooking or you live next to a Chinese supermarket, by the time you've gone through the shopping list, you've lost the will to make it. So today, I thought it would be a fun thing to do to recreate that dish, but with supermarket-friendly ingredients, utilizing the Sichuan technique and see if we could make something equally complex and delicious. Let's do it. For a dish such as this, rump and sirloin would probably be my go-to because they have the tenderness, they have a good bit of fat coating, and they're flavorsome enough to stand up to the strong flavors. I definitely would not use fillet because that's just a waste. And I would avoid using ribeye because the structure of the ribeye would not be able to withstand the vigorous marination process. Today we have a piece of rump. Very simple. We'll just slice it thinly. You don't want the slices to be too thin just because you have to factor in the shrinkage. So this would be perfect. Perfect. Now, everything into a bowl and we do a very simple marination. A bit of salt and 1 egg white. Perfect. And we give this a relatively vigorous mix. That's why I said earlier, I wouldn't use ribeye for this because the spinatus dorsi and the eye would just fall apart, leaving you with very tiny pieces. Traditionally, they also add water for the beef to absorb, but for me, this dilutes the flavor so much I normally try to avoid. But the egg white adds a bit of texture and helps the beef cling on to the seasoning and the flavors of the broth. Now, instead of cornstarch, we add some flour. Everyone has flour, I hope. Again, this helps the sauce cling on to the beef. Once you have a homogeneous color and the egg white has mostly disappeared, that's when you know you can set it aside. Now, because once you start cooking, everything cooks so quickly, we're going to start by preparing our aromatic vegetables. All the classics, carrot. I'm not even going to peel it because we only want the flavors. They're going to be sieved out before plating. Some celery. An onion. And lots of whole garlic. Normally I put my garlic separately, but because we're keeping them whole, they won't burn as easily. For the rest of the celery, we're going to make a quick stir fry to line the bottom of the bowl. Now, one way to make sure they're not chewy is I always like to break them with my fingers close to the root. And you pull. This way you'll take away all the chewy bits with you. Perfect, and we're ready to cook. First, instead of Sichuan peppercorn, in our dry pan, we'll toast some black peppercorn. Medium heat, because you don't want them to burn. Once this is hot, black peppercorns, they go in. No oil. You want the dry heat from the pan to help them release their essential oils. And this would make them way more fragrant than regular black peppercorns. Once the whole room smells like black pepper, stove off, and it's pesto molto time. Oh, the smell. And this is perfect. You set this aside for later, and without rinsing the pan, we bring the heat back on to stir fry the celery. And this way, the celery would pick up some of the essential oils from the black peppercorn. Olive oil, celery in. Salt. Some restaurants, when they make the traditional recipe, they blanch the vegetables. For me, that dilutes the flavor of the dish. This way, we're evaporating some of the water content from the celery, so that when the hot broth touches the celery, they will not release extra liquid into the broth. Beautiful. This will line the bottom of our bowl. And once again, without the need to rinse the pan, a bit more olive oil. And we add all of our aromatic vegetables. And you want to brown them this time. You want them to pick up even more flavors before adding the water. Once again, we salt. We're in essence making a vegetable stock. Once they've taken on some colors, we lower the heat slightly, and instead of fermented chili bean paste, our umami bomb today, tomato puree, and only if you have it, salted anchovy puree. And you cook out the tomato puree to remove a bit of the harshness and concentrate the flavors. You see the fond that we're building, the slightly burned bits. Once we deglass it, there'll be so much flavor. Now, to give us the extra kick, on top of the kick from the black pepper, hot sauce. Whatever hot sauce you have in your fridge. Today I'm using Louisiana. This one is very spicy. I'm being a bit stingy, but you can feel it immediately. Oof. Now, we add the liquid. If you have chicken broth, amazing. If not, water's fine. Bring the heat back up and you scrape the bottom to mop up all those fond, all those flavors. Just for some extra complexity, we'll throw in some parsley. I'm not even going to bother with bay leaves because this thing will not cook for long enough for bay leaves to impart any meaningful flavors. Now, once this is back to a boil, you lower the heat to medium-high and you leave it boiling to extract the maximum flavors you get from the vegetables. And while that's boiling, we prep some garnish. Just for colors and a good kick, we have some red and green chilies, and we simply slice them thin. If you want spicier, go from the seed side. Perfect. And we crush some garlic. So you get the complexity from the cooked garlic, but you get some raw garlic spices from the raw garlic as well. The crusher really breaks the cell membranes and releasing the essential flavors of the garlic. Perfect. Now, the vegetable have had some time to impart their flavors to this wonderful broth. We'll sieve them out. We give it a final round of good mixing and beef goes in. Try to not throw everything in because of the egg whites so that they don't lump together. And we're not going for medium rare here. You almost want the fat to have a bit of time to render, to impart a bit of beefy goodness to the broth. And now, we can plate. We have the stir-fried celery. I've added some onions from the broth just because I like onions. You don't have to. Very carefully, we ladle the beef and the broth. We heat some vegetable oil in a separate saucepan at the highest heat possible. We add beautiful chilies right in the middle, our crushed garlic, whatever chili flakes, chili powder you have at home. This is Shichimi Togarashi. And of course, our crushed and toasted black peppercorn everywhere. Be generous with your black peppercorn. Now, once the oil is really shimmering, you pour. And you can smell the room with all the fragrance. Just for final measure, a bit of parsley on top, and that's it. A supermarket variation on the Sichuan boiled beef. Is it as good? I don't know. But you could buy everything easily in any supermarket. This is Sichuan boiled beef with supermarket characteristics. I really hope you enjoy.